Hey guys, this is C Fox Artwork, and I'm doing a video here today. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit about kind of the shoot process. I get a ton of questions from people, always asking, how do you find the models that you shoot with? How, do you talk to them? Yeah, typically, they're friends, but I get it all the time from people who aren't. Just contacting a model and kind of how to talk to them over the web. What I tend to do is I look at their profile or their portfolio first to get a feel for them. Seeing, the kind of photos that they're posting, you can kind of gauge what a model is okay with, what, they're going to be open to. Typically you can gauge that and get just a good reading on the way to send a message to them. Now, the worst thing that you could possibly go ahead and do is to contact a model and ask them to shoot something that they specifically say in their portfolio that they will not shoot again, or that they won't shoot ever. Asking somebody to shoot nude and they only shoot up to like normal fashion, like street fashion or possibly swimwear, and you're asking them to, bear it all. That is something, that take a look and gauge kind of where they're at, and don't be overzealous in asking what you want to shoot. Give a proper greeting. Typically models have an inbox full of highs and hays, and they're not going to pay attention to you if you have one of those as well. The ultimate goal of you sending them a message isn't to just talk to them like everybody else. It's to say, hey, this is what I want to shoot. I am a photographer, I'm a professional, and these are my ideas. Would you be open to shooting them? And typically I use something a little bit more formulaic than that, and I say something along the lines like, hello and good afternoon, model's name attached at the end, be a little bit personable, and then say, I'm a photographer in the area with X number of years of experience, and I'd be interested in shooting with you. Here's kind of what I have in mind. Using something like that as a starter and making it your own goes a long way, in telling the model that you are a professional and that you're actually there to work with them and not just start up some conversation. Remember, I hate to sound very cliche, but you only get one shot to make a good first impression. And that definitely, being over social media or the internet in general, be very aware of your first impression and what it's going to look like. Give as many details about the shoot as you possibly can. Have your work ready, or at least some inspiration photos to show the model, this is what I kind of want to take photos of. Are you open to that? And show them, examples, have them ready so that they're not just possibly saying no, or they don't quite get what you're going over or what you're thinking. Just to show them what you're wanting to create with them. Do even a 5-minute search on the internet before you go into a conversation shows the model that you have this plan and this idea, and just helps again with that professionalism. Tell the model a little bit about yourself and what you're passionate about creating, what you want to create with them specifically. and also take into consideration kind of what you gleaned earlier from looking at their portfolio or profile. For example, just telling a person that you want to do a boudoir shoot for an idea that you have in mind, a particular one, but also give some alternate options just in case they say no, in case they aren't interested in that idea at all, or just aren't comfortable with it yet. People change constantly. It's kind of amazing the way that we do it, and being able to be flexible and to have an open mind. If you really want to shoot with somebody, it doesn't so much matter what you guys shoot first, because if you create a good rapport with that person, they're going to come back. You guys are going to come back together, and you guys are going to create more. May not be right away, but you guys are gonna do more things in the future. Another thing, ask the model's age. Can't really stress this one enough. It's pretty simple. You go to a bar, they ask for your ID, and then you're able to get a drink. It's kind of a similar concept here. I want to shoot this with you. How old are you? And then when you're actually shooting, asking them for their ID, it's key. If you're shooting lingerie, if you're shooting fashion, you're gonna want to ask for that ID. You're gonna want to ask for their age, especially if you're wanting to publish something. It just changes up the process. If you're shooting with somebody who's 17 years old, they're not going to be able to sign a consent waiver or anything on their own. They're going to have somebody else there, and you're going to want that person there too, just in case things get hairy ever down the road. You definitely don't want some sort of lawsuit on your hands for shooting with an underage person. That's like the worst. That's oof. Having contact info for references ready to vouch for you. I typically like to have at least like 3, maybe 5 different references. Previous models that I've worked with who can vouch for me and say, hey, he's safe to work with. He gets photos back in a timely manner. He's very professional but funny. Whatever it may be. Just having people who've had a good time shooting with you, working with you, it goes a long way to show the model that you are trustworthy and such. And even if you don't have anybody within the industry, if you're brand new as a photographer or as a model, then what you can always go ahead and do is, just like any other job, grab references from those jobs. Grab people who are friends who can talk about your character. Because just like you're applying for a job in an industry you've never had, and you're required to have references who can talk about you, it's the same kind of thing when it comes to art in a setting where a photographer is taking photos of a model. But if you are very hard up for finding any particular person to help you out, you don't have any reference whatsoever, for some reason, for any reason, go ahead and tell the model, hey, I'm just starting as a photographer. I'm just starting as a model, and I'm not entirely sure how to act here. I would like to bring somebody, in the case of a photographer, telling the model, suggesting to them that they bring an escort with them, somebody to make them feel safe, to make them feel comfortable. It promotes safety. It shows that you're being professional for never having done anything. It's something that you can do even if you have references. And especially if it's like the first time shooting, it's always good to, bring somebody in like an indoor setting, like inside the studio or something like that. It's always good to have. Let the model know exactly what to expect if they shoot with you. How many photos you're going to deliver to them in what kind of time frame. Most shoots around like 2 to 4-ish hours. I would say are pretty standard, around 5 to 15 photos, going back to the model from the photographer. And it does go up from there. I've been known to give a lot more than what I require myself to give in my contracts. At least up until recently, I just changed my policies and stuff. So I'm kind of giving more right on the dot, right on the number. But 15 photos, that's a good place to start. It's not too many, you're not going to stand out from other photographers who give a ton, and it's not too little, so you're not going to stand out in a bad way as being somebody who only gives 5 photos, or 1 to 5 even. I've seen with some people. Don't contact the model asking to shoot and immediately hit them with your rates, where you're saying, I would, I'd like to shoot. They say, yes, I'm interested. And then you immediately go, okay, well, if we are to shoot, you're gonna be paying me this much money. I charge this much. Don't do that. It immediately turns off the model to even the idea of working with you at that point. And then it's just kind of rude in general. I don't know how many times I've been contacted, by models who are wanting to shoot, and they're like, hey, I'd love to shoot with you, really love your work, what can we do? And then I come back to them and say, hey, love your work too, let's go ahead and do something. And then immediately get told, all right, well, if you want to shoot with me, we're going to be shooting for $150 an hour. It's not good, and it puts you in a weird spot with that model. Like, I typically don't even respond when they hit me with their rates right after that. I've recently changed the way that I do get paid, or pay models. I started off by doing a lot of trade work, where the model comes in and gives me her talent and time, and I meet her and give her my talent and time, and then in return we both create photos, and a true collaboration happens. I've recently kind of stopped that or limited that, so that I am just going ahead. If I go to a model and I say, hey, I want to shoot with you, I've got my wallet kind of on standby, and I'm like, here, I'm thinking, here's my budget and what I'm willing to pay. Even if it's $20, even if it's the price of lunch after a shoot, or the price of admission, to the aquarium or the amusement park that we're going to be shooting at. Those things kind of count, and I would consider them to be pay in a lot of cases, depending on the kind of shoot that you're going for and the looks. Just don't hit them with your rates right away. Don't come to them. If they like your work, if they like, working with you, later on, those models are going to come back, like I've said in the past, and they may have ideas for them, for their own work, where they're like, I'd like to shoot this with you, and you just go right then at that point, okay, yeah, I'd like to do that too. are you okay paying, me? I don't know how many times I've worked with somebody and I've paid them, and then immediately afterwards they came back with a bunch of ideas, and they paid me, even if it's the same money going back and forth, and nothing's really being made. It kind of it goes to show, and it just has a lot of professionalism to it. I would say if you're starting off, you're going to end up paying more often than you are just getting free shoots or getting paid. Leave the paid options to models that you've already worked with, or the ones that contact you directly, or those who kind of present their own shoot ideas later in conversation. You could be halfway through a conversation about setting up a shoot, and the model can go ahead and say, hey, actually I did have an idea, let me show you. And then you can be like, oh, that would be awesome, and kind of think of the compensation at that point, and then you can kind of work it into, hey, yeah, I'd love to shoot that. That's awesome. It's not exactly what I was originally going for. Do you mind if we kind of lower the payments, or make it a little bit more even, so that your ideas are being shot as well as mine? And if a model says no to your idea, this is why I said earlier to go ahead and have alternate ideas. But you can kind of look back at your work, or at your words, and evaluate what was said, and maybe even read and see a giant typo that completely changes the meaning of your written message. A lot of things get lost, and a lot of people, it's hard conveying exactly what you're thinking to another person, and doing so in just written form. I've run across a lot of issues on both sides with that. Sometimes the way that you presented an idea is not the way that you wanted it to be presented. So you can kind of possibly reiterate, or reform your idea and say, hey, yeah, I totally understand you don't want to shoot this idea. I was just looking at the messages and I saw that I said it this way, but I actually meant it this way. Not sure if it changes your mind. Leave it so that there is no pressure. And again, be flexible. Have another idea ready. If you want to shoot with this model, have another idea ready that they might be comfortable with. If they're saying no to lingerie and boudoir, ask them if they'd be open to doing like street fashion photography, or swimwear, something else that's within their comfort zone that you see posted, just as a good place to start. And biggest thing, don't get mad. Don't get mad if a model says no. Don't become angry that the person is rejecting your idea for any reason. That's a quick way to get blocked, to run into issues, and to burn your bridges. And you don't want to do that. You're wanting to work with this person, and you're wanting to create some artwork with them. It's horrible if you get blocked, because especially for that reason right there, where you're just asking them to shoot something that they're uncomfortable with. Essentially what they're saying there is that they are so uncomfortable with the idea that you gave them that they would rather go ahead and block you at that point than talk to you further about your idea. And that's pretty much the worst feeling there. I've definitely been blocked during conversation where I thought I had rephrased things enough, and it's obvious that I did not. And then all they have to do is they have to go ahead and you know, it can come to you later on. Just being blocked by that one person could turn into 2, it could turn into 3, it could turn into 4, you know, and so on. Say you're setting up a shoot with another model and they know or are friends with them, you know, they're at a shoot together and they get a free second and they get messaged, and the model's like, hey, you know, I just got a message from CFox Art and he's asking me to go ahead and shoot this. What, you know, take a look at this idea. You know, I like this idea. They could be on the good side of things and would be a good response normally. But, you know, then that other model's like, CFox Art, that name sounds familiar. I'm pretty sure I got a message from that person. And they made me feel like I got really weird vibes from them. I wouldn't shoot with them. And then you find yourself blocked, you know, by both people and not just the one. You know, you kind of get one shot to go ahead and say these, you know, or propose an idea. And after that, you know, it could be gone, or you could have a really good relationship. It all depends on how you conduct yourself, and it is very important as a professional. You know, especially here as a male photographer, mainly working with female models, it's very, very important. Last thing is just being ready and willing to completely, you know, to pay that model if you really want to shoot with them. This especially applies if you have little to no portfolio. You know, again, once you've been found as this professional person who creates great artwork and, you know, gets the photos done and on time, you're gonna have that model coming back. You're gonna have other people coming to you. It's gonna spread around just like negativity does. People are gonna see your photos because the models are going to be posting them and they're gonna be saying good things. They're going to be wanting to shoot with you, and you're going to be able to, you know, make your money back or make some money. For me, it took a really long time for me to even ask anybody to be paid. And had I, you know, if I could go back and change things, I would pay the models more often right at the start. You know, I didn't have a lot of experience, and I should have been asking, hey, can I go ahead and pay you, versus telling them, you know, I didn't really have a lot of money at the time and was in a really, really tight spot. And I was still trying to shoot and get photos back when I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have been able to. And it was really, really rough at the start. And if I could go back, I would have just waited a little bit longer until I had, you know, a little bit more money to go ahead and pay the model exactly what they were asking for, or to pay them, you know, at all there. And then, yeah, once they got the photos back, they were, you know, they'd be in love, but you want to be able to pay that person, or, you know, have them pay you eventually. And it just goes back and forth. The more that you put into photography, the more love and passion that you put into it, the more it kind of comes back. You know, the more that you see an actual profit, or you know, that you see these dividends, that you see grateful people, and the more that you want to do it. But, you know, I think that pretty much wraps up the first video here for shoot process number 1 of 3. 2 is going to be how to conduct yourself at the shoot etiquette. And the third one is going to be what to do at the end of the shoot, into, you know, afterwards. What kind of surprises, good surprises, can you throw the model to make them want to shoot with you again, even after everything is said and done. Just, you know, good stuff. Things I get questioned on a lot by people, and just wanting to share a little bit about that stuff with you, get this, you know, for you now. And you know, if you liked or learned anything here, please go ahead, hit that like button, and also subscribe to the channel. I'm going to have a lot more videos coming through here. If you thought that I missed something, please go ahead and comment and let me know, because I'm definitely all about the learning, and you can't stop learning. Once you do, that's kind of a bad sign. So if you felt that there was something I missed, or just have a comment on the video in general, please let me know. Definitely wanting to grow from this first full YouTube video here. But C Fox Art signing out.